Alright, are we live? I think we are. So, good morning or afternoon, everybody. My name is Rico, and I'll be doing Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, any % game over abuse. This is a pretty underlooked category, I guess. So, yeah, I guess we'll just get ready. And 3, 2, 1, go. Alright. So the first level is pretty normal and uneventful. So I'll use that as an opportunity to just kind of explain the movement tech in this game. So there's a couple of factors that are used. That's all kind of like glitch movement. What you're seeing right now is called the neutral slide spin, or NSS for short. And basically how it works is that when you do a slide spin, if you slide and then let go of all directional input before the spin, then the spin actually carries the momentum of the slide. So you actually just go really, really fast throughout the entire game with this movement, because you just carry your slide momentum for basically all of it. The other thing you'll see me doing is that I do this little wiggling motion in the air. That's called zigzagging. And basically it's faster if you're in the air or in a slide to alternate diagonals as opposed to just hold a straight direction. I don't use it too much in the slide just because it's a bit trickier and I'm not entirely comfortable with it, but I throw it in where I can, but you'll see me do it a lot in the air. And yeah, that was the first level. So this next level is the first time we'll see the game over abuse, so I'll explain it when we get to it. But the next level is Crash Dash. This is the first of 3 chase levels that the Crash games are pretty well known for. So I'm going to be getting chased by a giant boulder, and this is kind of going to show off just how much the movement tech saves. The boulder is supposed to move about as fast as Crash, and we're just completely leaving it behind. So yeah, the first half of this level is pretty normal. And then in this section, I'm going to grab the crystal, and then I'm going to do something a little odd. So grab the crystal, and I'm going to immediately turn around, and I'm going to Death Abuse into this hole, and then I'm going to Death Abuse until I get a game over. So that probably seemed really weird, but the way this works and the entire core of this category is that Crash 2 specifically has a glitch where if you grab an item in a level and then you game over in that level, you actually keep that item in this invisible inventory. So if I finish another level, I'll actually get the crystal for the level I finish and any levels that I game overed in, and this does stack. So throughout the entire run, you're going to see me game over in, you know, a variety of levels and then just finish one, and then I'll get like 3 or 4 crystals just for finishing that one level. This level of the pits is pretty straightforward, so I'm going to use it to explain something like the version and region choices that I'm doing. So for one, I'm playing on a PlayStation 2. This is because of the fast disk speed option that like most PS2s have. It basically cuts down all the load times by like nearly half, and it saves a minute or 2 over the course of the run. And then I'm also playing on the PAL version of the game. The reason for this is that because PAL runs at a lower frame rate, Naughty Dog actually made Crash move faster on the PAL version, except they did a bit too good of a job on it. So Crash actually just moves really, really fast on PAL compared to NTSC. And it just saves a large amount of time over the run. So this is Hang 8. This is another pretty straightforward level. A lot of the early Warp Room levels are pretty straightforward, but there's going to be something interesting that I do here in terms of Death Abusing. So take note of how long this death animation is when I go for the Death Abuse. So that's a pretty long animation, but for some reason, if you death abuse in this specific spot, it gets drastically shortened. And I think it has something to do with the game loading in the bonus round, like immediately above. So I'm assuming the game just can't handle that many things being loaded at once, so it just doesn't load the death animation. So it gives you a really quick one. And there's also a handful of checkpoints where you just don't get the respawn animation, and those are generally good places to death abuse as well, because you just respawn really quickly. Alright, so this is the last level of Warp Room 1. This is Snogo, and we're going to finish this level because we have to. You have to finish at least one level to get the crystals from the game over abuse, but we're still going to death abuse down to 0 lives. And that's because it's faster to death abuse in this level than it is to death abuse in the level I'll be doing at the start of the next Warp Room. I got a little animation there that we call shoes. That animation is random. It happens. The chances of it happening are 25% every time you fall into a hole, and when it does happen, it loses about 1.5 seconds. So it's a bit of unfortunate RNG, but it doesn't really have a huge impact generally. I'm gonna play this a little safe, just because if one of the really frightening parts of this category is that if you game over at the wrong time, you lose a lot of time for it because you just have to start the whole level over. So, yeah, that was Warp Room 1. So, I'm going to come out of this level, and Crash is going to throw 4 crystals into the air. 1 for Snogo, and then 1 for the 3 levels that I game overed in. Yep. Alright, so we're going into the first boss. This is Ripperoo. He is a notoriously easy boss. There's absolutely nothing to this. It's 100% an auto-scroller and just waiting for him to be vulnerable. So this is the prime moment to fire off as many donations as possible.
Alright. Well, right now we have a total amount of donations at $6,670.55. We're doing really great, but of course, since all of this money goes to the COVID relief fund, you know, even $1 helps. $3 will help pay for an N95 mask for healthcare workers. $10 pays for an antibody test to help research better treatments and a cure. So please get your money in. We have several polls you can respond to with your donations. You can choose the Pokemon for Puzzle League. It's between Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Pikachu, with Squirtle in a far ahead lead. Vote for your favorite Super Mario Maker 2 team. Vote for your favorite Super Mario 64 team. And vote for your best game franchise. Unfortunately, Crash Bandicoot is not one of the options, but Zelda is currently in the lead, with Mario as a second, trailing behind.
Crash Bandicoot should be one of them, though. Alright, so this fight's ending really soon, but I thought of something a little fun, though. For every shoe RNG animation I get, I'll donate $1.50 for every 1.5 seconds it costs. Alright, so someone probably should keep track of that. Alright, so this is Warp Room 2, and we're going to start with level 10, the Eel Deal. This is the first of 3 sewer levels, and this level thankfully isn't too bad because it does give you 2 masks, so accidental deaths don't really happen, although I had a little bit of scuffed movement there. I'm going to do some damage abuses here just because it's faster and I have to lose these masks before I death abuse anyway. Something of note is that even though I'm about to game over, I still grabbed that checkpoint. The way the game handles respawning is that the amount of time it takes to respawn is actually dependent on how far away your most recent checkpoint was. So if the checkpoint is closer to you, it takes less time to respawn. And for some reason, this applies even if you're about to game over. So by breaking that checkpoint, I actually save a couple seconds in the transition between the level and the game over. Alright. So this is Crash Crush. This is the second chase level. And again, this is a pretty straightforward one, more or less. Something of note is that this is a little subtle thing that's going to be applied across the entire run that might not be immediately noticeable, but there are some crates that I like intentionally don't break, like those two over there. The reason is that these crates have extra lives in them, and obviously getting extra lives in this category is very bad. It requires you to death abuse more often, which wastes time. So it's actually one of the nice like little nuances that makes me really enjoy this category, is that it requires a lot of knowledge to know, like, you know, where to properly death abuse, where to not collect extra lives, and things like that. Oh, I got stuck in scenery there. That's a thing that can happen in this game a lot. So I'm going to death abuse down to 0 again, but I'm not going to game over. It would be faster to game over in this level, but the next level is another one that has pretty slow death animations. So it's better to death abuse down to 0 here and then just immediately game over in the next level. It loses a bit of time in this level, but it saves overall more time over the entire course of the run, because having to death abuse more often in the next level just loses a huge amount of time. So this next level is Barrett. It's the first bear level. Anybody who's played Crash 2 casually probably remembers these levels very fondly. I'm not entirely big on them. So one thing I really like about game over abuse is that it makes this level approximately 40 seconds long. So the little movement here I'm doing is called polar launching by the community. And basically, you charge, but you cut it off as quickly as possible with a jump. And you maintain some of the charge momentum, but you're able to charge again immediately among landing. And yeah, that was Barrett. Because for some reason the crystal is very, very early in the level. So this is the air crash. Not too much in this level, so if there's maybe like one donation that could be squeezed in here, it would probably be good.
I will just give us the donation website, sorry, tiltify.com/@speedrun. Please get your donations in, every bit.
Definitely donate, it's for a very good cause. Alright. So this is another level where I'm gonna load in the bonus round, and it's going to cause the death animation to be drastically shorter. And the way you load is when you death abuse in this specific spot between this hippo and like this next section of the level, you get this really quick animation, and it looks really weird. Like every time someone comes in and sees me doing this and they're like, why are you death abusing like that, why don't you just fall into the water? It's because that's the only place where you get the really quick animation. So, last level in this warp room is Snowbiz. It's another snow level. This is the first level that I would say is, I guess, challenging or hard. It's definitely a very tricky level where a lot can go wrong. So hopefully none of that happens. And it's again another level where I'll be death abusing down to 0. Those little porcupines are invulnerable while their spikes are up, but thanks to the neutral slide spin, you can move fast enough to hit them before they go up. Something I guess I'll mention right now is ice physics. So when you do a slide spin on ice, your speed actually caps out, because Crash sliding on ice is the maximum speed that the game can handle. So you just see Crash like rocking forward whenever I do a slide spin on ice. It doesn't even have to be a neutral slide spin, it can just be a normal slide spin. And yeah, that was Warp Room 2. So we'll be going into the second boss fight now, which is the Komodo Bros. And they've They've got a bit more to them than Ripperoo, which I guess is not a particularly high bar, but Crash 2 is not really known for its boss fights, but this is one that requires a bit more thought. So the goal of this fight is that you want to spin the skinny guy into the bigger guy in the center, and the way the skinny guy moves is entirely dependent on where you are positioned in the arena. So the movement I'm going to do here is all planned and specific. The first two phases are pretty easy. The third phase is a bit more precise, so I might have to like freestyle it a little bit. I got a crouch there when I wanted to slide. That was weird. It's a good thing I had a mask. This game, probably by factor of it running at 25 frames per second and not going way faster than the developers probably ever intended. This game likes to drop inputs. That's kind of a thing the Crash games are notorious for, so that's probably why I got a crouch instead of a slide, because they're mapped to the same button. Alright, I played that third phase a little safe because I didn't want to lose this mask and then get hit. Because a game over in this boss fight is really, really time consuming. Yep, that was Komodo Bros, so we will be going into the third warp room. Things start to pick up a little bit here, but not too much. And I say this, but we're also going to enter the level Bear Down. This is the second bear level. This is pretty widely disliked by most Crash 2 runners, in my experience. It's not a hard level, but it's very long, it's very slow, it's pretty boring. In this category in particular, it's also very scary, because if you game over accidentally, you lose a lot of time. Death abusing in this level is really slow. And there's actually a large amount of extra lives that you can accidentally pick up, so I actually go out of my way to avoid every single crate in this level. So yeah. This level is also cut down by roughly half, and it's still this long, which is kind of a testament. It's really, it feels out of place compared to the rest of Crash 2, which is overall a really fast-paced speed game, and then you just have this level in the middle. It's just kind of there. And like, you see how long that animation is. That's one of the, like, probably one of the shorter death animations you can get on Polar Bear level, and it was several seconds long. So imagine having to do that multiple times. If you accidentally game over, it loses so much time. Alright, so this is Unbearable. It's the third and final chase level, but it has a bit of a gimmick. We are instead getting chased by a giant bear instead of a giant boulder. We'll only be seeing about half of this level, because this is another one of those levels where the crystal is like approximately halfway through it. And there's actually, this level also has a gimmick where in the last of the 4 chase sections you actually ride the little polar bear to escape from the big one, but because of the game abuse we just will not see that. So just grab this crystal and then death abuse here. Oh, whoops. The RNG really just doesn't want me to donate, apparently, because I've gotten one shoe animation this entire run. This next level will have a lot more opportunity to possibly get a shoe animation, though. This is Road to Ruin. The Ruin levels are generally considered pretty challenging ones. Road to Ruin's a bit harder in 100%. In any percent, I think it's pretty straightforward, so not too much going on here. This is another level where the crystal's like basically halfway through. You just grab it and then death abuse. Okay, there's the second one, so 2 shoe animations. Wow. If you guys had seen me practicing like immediately before this run, I was getting the worst shoe RNG, and now I'm getting just really good RNG. Alright, so this is Sewer Later. In my opinion, this is probably the hardest level in the run. It's either this or another level in Warp 4. I went for a snipe there on this flamethrower enemy, but I didn't get it. But this level has a lot going on and a lot of specific things I have to do, and if anything goes wrong, it can lose quite a bit of time, so hopefully it doesn't. So I have to specifically break that mass crate before the checkpoint, because I'll be coming back to that checkpoint. I tried for a flame skip there, but I didn't get it, so hopefully I don't take damage here. Okay, we're good. I skipped that checkpoint on purpose. Okay, that's fine. And intentionally damage boost here. Damage boosting is really, really useful in this level because of all the flamethrower enemies. They're really difficult to dodge. Alright, so this is going to take me all the way back to the first checkpoint, and I have a quick respawn animation here, and because of that, I have enough time to hit this electric water, and this is really the only way to quickly die in this level. All other options are really slow. Like, if you remember the angel animation from the first sewer level, that's the only other real way to death abuse quickly. That's like next to a checkpoint, and that's a really, really slow animation. So thankfully that level went pretty well. And this is the last level in the warp room. This is plant food. Again, this is a rather straightforward one. I guess the one thing of note is that little timer at the bottom right. That was also in Hang 8, but it wasn't really relevant, so I didn't mention it. But it will matter here. If you reach the end of the level before that timer runs out, you actually get rewarded what's called the timer gem. But picking up the timer gem is very slow because it's another item you have to throw in the warp room. So when I get to the end of the level, I will simply be running around it, and that actually saves time over collecting it and having to throw it up in the warp room. Yeah, that was warp room 3. So I'm going to be death abusing at the start of the next boss fight. Not because it's slow to death abuse in any of the levels in Warp Room 4, but more that it's just faster to do so in the boss fight because it's a really quick death and respawn. So this next boss fight is Tiny. He is anything but tiny. He's actually a pretty big boy. And the goal of this boss fight is that he follows wherever you go, and these platforms will eventually flash red and fall. So you want him to follow you into a pit that shows up like this. There's a little bit of RNG to this fight. The way the platforms fall is chosen from a group of set patterns, but which pattern gets chosen is random. So it's a bit predictable, but still something I might have to react to. So far I've been getting some pretty good RNG though. The only thing that's disgusting with this phase is that if only a corner drops here, then okay, we're good. Tiny really doesn't like to fall into corners, so... Oh no. I was a little too slow there, so I guess we're doing this fight again. If anyone wants to know why my estimate is 45 minutes when my PB in this category is a 39:10, and my estimate is 45 minutes because stuff like that can happen. A game over in the wrong spot is very punishing. So we get to see this fight again. I don't know if any donations have come in, but if so, this would probably be a good time because I already explained the fight.
No issue. We are currently at $6,670.55 out of $15,000 is our goal. So we still have a ways to go. Remember guys, even $1 helps. $3 will pay for an N95 mask for healthcare workers. And $10 pays for an antibody test to help research better treatments and a cure. All of the money goes directly to the COVID response fund. So this is a really great cause. All the money helps, and of course, you can put that money towards one of our polls to choose the Pokemon for Puzzle League, vote for your favorite SMM2 team, vote for your favorite SM64 team, or vote for the best game franchise, at least among Pokemon, Sonic, Mario, and Zelda. Sorry, no Crash Bandicoot.
Alright, so we're in Warp Room 4 now, and we're going to start with Cold Hard Crash. This level is very notoriously difficult for the casual player. Thankfully, in any percent, it's really not that bad. One thing that is going to be important here is the death route. So the death route is a thing in Crash 2 where if you reach... I entered the bonus round. I don't even know how I did that. The death route is a thing where if you reach the death route platform without ever dying in the level, it shows up and it's this little extra path that is supposed to be more difficult. And it usually has like extra crates or like a gem or something. So generally they're not useful for any percent because they're for 100% completion. The one in Cold Hard Crash is an exception because if you take this death route path, you actually cut out the entire like last half of the level, basically. So doing this, you just immediately spat out at the very end of the level, and it cuts like a pretty large chunk out. So I grab that crystal and just immediately game over. Yeah, I don't even know how I entered that bonus round. I don't know if it's like the game lagged or I hit an invisible wall or what. Alright. Shoes count is now 3. Alright, so this level is Ruination. This is a hard level. If Sewer or Later isn't the hardest level in the run, then it's probably this one. This is a very treacherous level with a lot of really tricky platforming, and the real kicker is that I have to do it all with 0 lives, because I'm going to be death abusing at the next checkpoint. One thing that is nice about death abusing, though, 4 shoes, is that it actually resets the cycles. This game runs on global cycles that are running as long as the game isn't paused, but every time you die, the cycles reset, so now I am able to predict where every cycle is going to be.
And we did get... Go ahead.
Well, I was hoping I wouldn't take damage there, but somehow I hit that enemy, I guess. So this next level is going to be a little slow because of that. Actually, I'm just going to game over because of that. So generally I don't game over in that level because of, you want to actually take 2 masks in this level, but it's not possible to because I took damage there. But 2 masks, or so the way masks work in this game is that every time you get one of the masks from the mask crate, you're protected from a hit. But if you get 3 masks, you actually go invulnerable. But going invulnerable is actually really slow in this game because for some reason when you have the 3rd mask form, Crash's slide just gets dramatically slowed down to the point where neutral slide spin is just completely worthless, so you almost never want to go invincible. This level is an exception because these hangrails are really slow, and having invincibility lets you just completely bypass them. Unfortunately, I didn't get that, so we'll just be going through this really slowly. So, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, no issue. We have a donation from Josh for $10 that says, "Get in the zone, AutoZone. Hope this helps."
AutoZone definitely helps.
We also have another donation from John in the Flesh with $5 and no comment. Thank you so much for those donations. Keep them coming at tiltify.com/@speedrun.
Level went a little slower than I wanted to, but there really isn't a lot of opportunity to reroute this warp room compared to one of the other categories. It's generally in any percent no game over abuse, and in 100%, if you leave Ruination with 2 masks, or with less than 2 masks, you have an opportunity to get more in another level. Game over abuse, just the way it lines up, doesn't really give you that chance, so it was just really unfortunate that I took that damage in Ruination. Sorry, so this is Digging It. This is another pretty hard level, I would say. It's also got some elements of RNG to it. The way these idols move is RNG. The way these plants spit their bombs is RNG. I also have to be really careful with my fruit count here, because getting 100 fruit gives you an extra life, and obviously we don't want that because that would be an extra death abuse needed. I guess I mistimed that slide spin a little bit. And you can... I abused some scenery to get around that little electric fence and just squeeze through it. So normally I have 0 or 1 life in this level. I have 4 because I death abused in Ruination. I didn't really think that far ahead, honestly. I wasn't planning on taking a hit there. But it shouldn't be too bad. It's just going to be a few seconds of time loss. Just grab this crystal and then just death abuse down to 0. So I saw someone in chat ask why... okay, that was 2 more shoe animations, so I think we're at 6 now. I saw someone ask why I'm death abusing more than just once. The reason is because the category is game over abuse, and if you game over in a level after grabbing the crystal, you actually get rewarded it if you finish another level. So it's the entire point of the category. Just mention it again. Alright, so this level is Behaving. It's not really a hard level. This is actually probably the easiest level in the warp room. But it's got this little gimmick where there's these beehives, and when you pass them... I am doing really bad at dodging these fences. Yeah, when you pass these beehives, a group of 5 bees chase you, and the whole point is that you're supposed to be able to dig into this red dirt here in order to dodge them. That's really slow, and neutral slide spin just lets us completely outrun the bees. So you honestly might not even see them on screen. Yeah, otherwise this level is pretty straightforward.
Well, we have one more donation from Anonymous for $25. It says, great commentary and gameplay. Remember to wash your hands and drink responsibly for the next few months.
Thank you for the donation. Alright, so coming up to the end of this level. That was a little... I tried to slide jump there, but the game dropped my slide, but thankfully I didn't hit the nitros. Alright, so that is all of Warp Room 4. I would say Warp Room 4 is probably overall the hardest warp room, so the fact that we went through it relatively unscathed is good. And the only thing that really went wrong was Ruination. And yeah, so we will be going into the 4th boss fight, Engine. This is definitely the boss fight that requires the most strategy. There's actually quite a lot going on in this, but first we're going to death abuse down to 0 lives. Just because, again, it's very fast, and there's no chance of shoes in this fight. So the way this fight works is that Engine's mech has... each of the pieces has a certain amount of hit points. Sorry, I'm focusing. Alright, we should be good. Oh, I was short 1 hit. So each of the arms has 10 hit points, and each of the shoulders has 5, and the idea is that you're supposed to break the 2 arms and the 2 shoulders at the same time. I was just short 1 hit there, so... The shoulders are thankfully a lot easier to get. But this fight requires a lot of timing and, like, proper counting, so... It's the one fight in Crash 2 that I think takes, like, a good amount of thought to do quickly. A fun fact, he actually moves faster on the NTSC version, but as a result the fight's slower because you can't catch the fastest cycles because he just moves too quickly for you to keep up with. You can actually break his centerpiece in one cycle, but it's a pretty tight window, and if you mess it up, you die and have to do the whole fight over. So I just take the couple second time loss to make sure I don't die. Alright, and this is the final warp room, so there's only 5 levels in the final boss to go. Alright, so this is Rocket. It is the first of 2 jetpack levels. And I'm going to be doing this level relatively normally. Mild spoilers for anybody who might know some stuff about this run. So yeah, jetpack movement is really, really basic. You hold X and Crash moves forward. If you have to go backwards, you hold circle instead. And then the analog stick or D-pad controls his, you know, like lateral movement. So you can actually go through these scientists only on the PAL version, because the PAL version you move fast enough to just go through them. For some reason that just doesn't work on NTSC. Alright, so... and just Death Abuse. So this next level is Piston It Away. This is another level that is very notoriously difficult, casually. It's not really easy speed-wise either. But this is another level with the crystals roughly halfway through, so once we get through the first half, it's all good from there. I have no perception of depth, apparently. So yeah. Something I guess wasn't really touched upon is that in these like 2D-esque levels, it's actually 2.5D, so, you know, it's side-scrolling, but the 3D plane still exists, so you can just kind of jump around all these obstacles, which is a really nice element to them. So let's just dodge a lot of these. I was trying to jump, but I guess I'll just play this section a little safe. So grab this crystal and then just Death Abuse. And there's another shoes. I think that's 7. And yep, that was Piston It Away. So the next level is Spaced Out, which I actually think is harder. And this is... we're going to finish this level, but we're going to, again, Death Abuse down to 0. And I'm actually going to Death Abuse at the very beginning. This is another very cycle-heavy level, 8 shoes. So being able to predict what the cycles are going to do pays off a lot here. And I have to Death Abuse down to 0 anyway, so using it there doesn't really matter. I missed the cycle I wanted, though, because the game dropped 2 slides in a row. So we're just going to go a little slow here, I guess. Not losing too much time, though. Just a little bit. So, here's a little neat trick. I'm actually standing on top of this blue screen, which just lets me dodge all of those enemies. So we're gonna Death Abuse down to 0 here. And this sets up all the cycles to be really nice for the rest of the level. And Death Abusing to 0 here isn't really a factor of Death Abusing in the next level being slow, so much as it's just faster to Death Abuse and Spaced Out than it is to Death Abuse in the next level. Alright. A few more 2D jumps. This is the last 2D level, so that's the last of 3D jumping you'll see. And yeah, that was Spaced Out, so we're very close to the end of the run. There's 2 more levels. This will also, if I'm not mistaken, be the last opportunity for shoes, so... Alright, so this is a night fight. This is a nighttime jungle level. It's probably the least interesting level of Warp Room 5, because the dark gimmick doesn't really do much here, so... but basically you have to be guided by this firefly. But again, the crystals are roughly halfway through, so this level won't take too long. Actually abusing some of the spin animations invincibility frames to go under these spike bots here. But yep, that was a really quick level. So the last level is Pack Attack, and this has a really cool trick that I'm going to go for. If I miss it, I'm just going to go for it again because I'm already well past my PB. And I really want to show this off. There's a bit of a risk of it crashing, but I have a backup save if that happens. Awesome. First try. Alright, so this is not how you're supposed to do the level. This is called Jetpackless, and the way it works is that if you can pause buffer, and if you do it properly, you can actually spin past the trigger to enter the jetpack. There are some risks. If I touch anything electrical, or if I die to nitro, or if I just go through certain sections of the level too fast, the game will crash. But it's all consistent and controllable, so if the game ever crashes, it is completely on me. I'm going to grab that checkpoint for safety, because there's a little trick at the end that hopefully I get right, but if not, I don't want to die and go all the way back to the beginning of the level. Alright, so hopefully I get this. Nice. So that's where this trick saves the most time. And what happened there is that this game kind of loads the levels in chunks. So when I cross that threshold, it sends me into the last chunk. And the game sees I'm off the jetpack, so it throws me to the end of the level. And I'm able to grab the crystal and then just land at the end of the level. And it saves like 15 seconds. Alright. So this is the final boss, Cortex. He is extremely pathetic. Like, actually one of the worst final bosses in the history of video gaming. So timing will end on the final hit. The second hit's the only one that's a little annoying, so hopefully I don't miss it. I did not miss it. And time. 41:03. That's not too bad, considering I had an accidental game over in Tiny, and that was probably over a minute of time loss. Yeah, that was a pretty good run for Resetless. And yeah, that was Crash Bandicoot 2 Game Over Reviews. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite categories in any game, but I feel like it's very overlooked. Like, a lot of people don't really give this category any attention, but I think it's a really, really interesting one. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope might spark anybody's interest. And I hope you guys continue to support the stream and donate. This is a really good cause. That was 7 shoes. I'll actually double it to $3, so I'll do $21, $3 for every shoe animation, so I'll be sure to donate that when I go offline. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I think next is Spyro, so be sure to stick around for that.
Yes, great run. Remember, all of the money donated goes directly to the COVID response fund, but we're going to have a very short break here, so get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, maybe get some breakfast or lunch or dinner depending on where you're at, and we're going to come back for the Spyro Reignited Trilogy.